everyone. Welcome back. I'm Dan Powers, the Executive Director of the Society for Science at User Research Facilities, and I would like to be giving you an update in this session before our next panel discussion regarding activities during 2023 that SSURF was engaged in. And I think this will also give you some ideas on how you might be able to engage with us yourselves as a volunteer if you are interested in. Just a moment, actually, I need to go back on my slides here. Oop. Sorry, I'm still seeing our break slideshow. Just a moment, everyone. I have another slideshow I'm going to bring up here. Okay, there we go. All right, let me start with a bit of an overview. Most of you are familiar with SSURF. We're a now 6-year-old nonprofit organization, and our mission, really, I'm not going to read all of the exact words here, but I want you to be able to take that in some detail. And I'll reiterate what is really the spirit behind the mission of SSURF is to be a convening voice and an advocate for all of the researchers and scientists within the network of user facilities across the country, where we can help them share best practices with each other, become aware of the research that they're involved in, and make connections across different agencies with user facilities to leverage each other's knowledge, to leverage the kind of data and equipment and capacities and resources that there are across user facilities. In doing so, we're looking to strengthen the fabric of the user facility network across the country as an asset to the innovative ideas, to the prosperity and types of industries we're trying to grow here in our country, and help them be an asset not only to our country, but really to the world. In doing so, with the types of discoveries and projects and problems that are being addressed, the ideas that are being pondered and then acted upon, manifesting through discovery as to what types of solutions could be brought to bear on massive societal challenges, all of that activity that you are all involved in as user facility leadership or user facility users, as faculty and as stakeholders who are engaged with the user facilities, all of your activity there informs what becomes our messaging to the broader public, and more so to audiences that include elected officials, economic development experts, and other civic leaders who might know some about user facilities, but what we really want to do is be reaching those who have not heard of user facilities, who don't understand that you're doing this type of scientific research work every day, and then more pointedly, what is the value of that research? How is it manifesting? How is it being brought to bear to address the kind of political, policy, and downright tangible challenges that we have? And this is across a spectrum, as you all know from the types of research you're involved in. This can involve public health, this can involve material science, it can involve robotics or artificial intelligence or aerospace research, cybersecurity. There's a whole range of topics that are addressed by the fantastic research going on in user facilities. It is actually one of the best parts of our mission, in addition to connecting you all with each other, is reaching out to our elected officials and other civic leaders and helping them understand the value of what you are working on. So as I was describing our mission there and our activities, this somewhat reiterates where we are as an organization, what has been driving us in terms of our activities and as we design programs. You can see in here as well that we have a vision. I think I was trying to encapsulate with my comments there earlier that we perceive the users and the people involved in user facilities as being a brilliant, massive resource, not only to the country, but to the world, addressing some of our deepest problems. And we have values that I have perceived in meeting so many of you and in the conversations we have with users. One of the fundamental values is really one of curiosity. People are compelled to try to address challenging problems, and where might the people and the technologies be for them to research and try to learn more about / solve those problems. User facilities obviously are those touch points, are those centers for this kind of brilliance in research. A bit of structure behind the scenes here. This might give you some ideas on ways that you could be engaging with us and volunteering. We do have a volunteer board of directors. I'm actually the first part-time hire as an executive director to help coalesce a lot of the administrative operations behind the scenes, and then leaning into, and as Lily was describing earlier today, our efforts in advocacy and outreach with programs to reach some of those decision makers and others in different types of authority who should really understand the value and activities happening within user facilities. We have several volunteer committees, and that's where I'm fortunate to be able to get direction and ideas and connections to resources, connections to people like many of the speakers who are part of our annual meeting today. The volunteer committees are providing that kind of insight and recognizing here are the connections between SSURF's vision and mission and what a given scientist or stakeholder from our network knows is going on, and how we could connect with each other and how we can leverage all that knowledge amongst our network. The activities that you see here listed in 2023 are also realms where you might be able to engage with us. I'll discuss a few of these in a little bit more detail, but we get those on your radar. There's this mix of communications and often online types of convenings and communications, and then in-person gatherings where we're setting up appointments or having a presence within the kind of scientific organization gatherings or political settings where the people we're interacting with, in essence, we feel should know more about the network of user facilities, whatever little bit they might know. Sometimes we found people are aware of course, a major laboratory that's in their state or is in their realm of research, but they didn't realize there were another 4, 6, 15, maybe dozens, almost as Brandon was referencing the whole nanotechnology research network in the country, other entities that could be resources to them as well. In the spirit of recognizing the volunteers, I did want to put a face with the name and give you a sense of the spectrum of backgrounds for our board of directors. And you can see, you heard from Lily earlier today. You'll be hearing from a couple of our other board members today, both as speakers and helping introduce some of the presenters. And if you see the different backgrounds there, the agencies that are referenced, we're really proud of having this spectrum of scientists and science supporters, people whose organizations are involved in leveraging the assets. When I say leveraging, think of it as more partnering. It's not necessarily so mercenary. It really is very much a collaborative, intentional, good faith engagement by different organizations from the commercial sector, academic sector, nonprofit sector, who are connecting with user facilities. And then likewise, as you can see, some of our board members who work at federal laboratory user facilities, their goals as part of being on the board of directors is to help share what they know is happening within their facilities and get that out to the wider network of researchers and other types of organizations who should be leveraging, should be using, should be partnering with their scientists. A little bit more detail to give you some examples. In the communications realm, we continue to grow what typically is online and digital types of communication. Think social media. We've been using Twitter, X, and LinkedIn most prominently. We're looking to grow what will be our Instagram presence, because we can share photos and short videos in a way that is very convenient on that platform. We also have a YouTube channel where we provide videos from, of course, the annual meetings like this one, and then we look to provide videos from our different member facilities. And they have their own types of spotlights and about us videos that we can share as well. I'd ask if this is a realm of activity that you're involved in with your facility, or if you have examples, think of it as even as a consumer of video. Here's the ways that you like to get information. We know from our survey that there's a range of different types of our membership survey I'm referencing, a range of different types of content sources that our members look to leverage or look to tap into, we found that the LinkedIn, and now it's called X, sources were prominent. From there, there were a range of different types of professional publications, even things like Discord or Reddit channels. I'd be happy to take your suggestion as to ways that you would find it most helpful to get our information. Of course, we have our newsletter and our website. We do continue to find a growing challenge. Many of you in communications might see this as well, in an effort to avoid spam or just the overall river of unsolicited emails. It is becoming more difficult to get information through with an email platform. We use MailChimp, and if you don't feel like you've been getting emails from us, it could be that spam filters are really blocking out those kind of platform type emails. So look for any type of suggestions on to what you find works, but know that we'll continue to use these different channels to get our information so that you can understand what we have going on and see the spotlights and other kinds of event announcements that we have from across our membership. Okay, when it comes to outreach and advocacy, there are several locations, as I was alluding to in my earlier comments. Not only are we visiting Washington, D.C. and meeting with a range of committee staff from both the House of Representatives and the Senate, as well as elected officials and their staff, particularly those elected officials who have either a user facility in their district or in their state. What we do is have a bit of research and do some homework before we visit to learn not only what might be the latest research that they're aware of, but more so what we found is more compelling and actually has even more value, is to discern what are the threads and connections with other user facilities, and then think of it as companies who are leveraging the science out of a user facility, or academic institutions from smaller state colleges to the research universities, but those other entities throughout the country who are connected with the user facility that would be in a given elected official's district or state, and bringing this up to them as to here are the ways that other aspects of the network of user facilities across the country are partnering with and are actually resources to the entity that you are familiar with. And of course, the filter on all of those examples are the top 2 or maybe 3 policy issues, legislative priorities that they might have. Some people are more interested in renewable energy technology as a mitigation for climate change concerns. Others might be interested in more safe and productive food production. Others might be interested in aerospace or robotics or artificial intelligence and cybersecurity around such things. Some people are interested in what is the geopolitical context of research and where does the United States sit in terms of its competitiveness and its stature. It is not, I think it's not misunderstood by most that in some areas of science, we are still in a leadership role, but we are losing ground in some ways. And if you pick out a particular type of science, it can be argued, and there can be data that shows here's where different countries may actually be ahead of us in certain ways, given their technology or recent discoveries. Some of those other countries are friends, some of them not so much. And this is a realm of concern when it comes to our overall scientific competitiveness. So we look to tell those stories and both emphasize and remind these elected officials as to the value of support for our user facilities has as much of a rationale around national pride and national prosperity as it does around literally national security. And this is something that we can emphasize with examples of science and also a bit of a description of the challenges to be met and the status that we have relative to other players around the globe. And in doing so, the ultimate story, as you might imagine, always comes down to we're doing well and we appreciate what you have provided in terms of budget and other support for these facilities. We need more. And no, for those of you who are involved in the government affairs realm, a very common message that we are sharing is that continued funding to, at a minimum, match inflation, and more so to invest in the assets that we already have had for, in some cases, decades, but also are building to match what is the competitive landscape around the globe. We need funding to keep up the facilities that we already own. And that isn't necessarily as exciting sometimes as building the next new, say, shiny item. However, that is a responsible, practical, and crucial aspect of the support that we look for from our elected officials, is to be sure that they are maintaining the resources that we've already invested in, as well as bringing to bear new technologies. Sorry, so I went off a little bit on the advocacy side of things there, but it's a passion of mine, and I appreciate having the stories to bring to these meetings on Capitol Hill. So in that spirit, you can see a few of the other topics listed here. We arrange a presence at different conferences, been at the Materials Research Society and AAAS and AGU, and most recently the Tech Connect conference. We'll be looking to have more presence in 2024 at conferences. We're also looking to be strategic, though. There's the value of just getting the network of user facilities on people's minds, but we really want to be sure that there's an audience there who can engage more directly with the facilities, who would find it not just interesting, but actually very relevant, and we can help make some connections there. If you have suggestions on the type of conferences we should be at, that would be another point that we would ask for your suggestion. Make sure that SSURF is there. Also, we have been involved in creating formal statements where our board ponders a particular kind of position and rationale to emphasize to elected officials, typically is who the audience is for our formal statements, why we think that they should be taking either a particular position. We don't ask for, say, an outright specific vote or financial commitment. That's beyond the scope of the kind of structure that we are as a 501c3. But we also do make the kind of thematic and as pointed a statement as we can to remind them of the sort of support for science and user facilities in particular that we would like to see them take as a position. We also partner with other organizations, science organizations, in particular the Energy Sciences Coalition. We'll be hearing from Leland Cogliani, who's the co-chair of that organization, later today. That is a network of dozens of science supporting organizations who have a collective, very respected, incredible voice on Capitol Hill, and we're appreciative to be able to weigh in with the topics that they address and be part of a very heavy voice supporting most particularly the Office of Science in the Department of Energy. We also are hosting some gatherings. Just this week, we are in Gaithersburg for ESNet's Confab, and we're working with our member facilities to be able to arrange what becomes a social hour as part of their agenda so that people can have more informal conversations and catch up with each other in a setting outside of the more structured agenda of an annual meeting. And we found that people are very supportive of that and look forward to having that kind of gathering that we can help arrange. Lily had also mentioned, you see it up on there, the Georgetown University Congressional Operations class. This was a deep dive that she and I took for several days, hearing from current and former staffers on the Hill, and the insight that we got from these 5 days of classes on exactly where to plug into a process, how to be aware of where certain decisions are being made. This will help inform our collaboration with various user facilities, or more so federal laboratories, government affairs and government relations staff. And we look to continue to grow and be helpful as an advocate, where we are both reiterating and emphasizing the talking points, the key concerns and priorities that the people in the federal relations role with user facilities have as their daily priorities. As much as we can be a megaphone and stand in camaraderie and bringing up the same points, this is an area of emphasis that will be growing continually through 2024. All right, and this is now just to my last slide here. Look ahead into next year. You saw from the beginning, we are a smaller organization, small but mighty, with a few dozen volunteers and then myself as the staff person. If these three realms of activity, anything catches your attention in here, we would be very interested in having your involvement as a volunteer. So please reach out to me. The in-person site visits are something we're looking to particularly arrange, in addition to having an in-person annual meeting, likely next spring. As many of you know, this became a virtual annual meeting, not by the original design, but born of feedback we were getting going back about a month ago, when it looked like there could be a government shutdown and there were all sorts of unknowns relative to congressional leadership decisions. We would like to have our meeting be in person next year and are already working on what would be a late spring kind of timing for that. In addition, the on-site visits are something that we've spoken with a few members whose laboratories have either new discoveries or even new equipment. And more so, what we look to find is the Venn diagram between their research and what is a crucial topical national policy issue, such that we can bring in the different commercial sector leaders, as well as political leaders, other civic leaders, to understand here's what's happening at this given facility. And likewise, in that realm of science, bring in the other related researchers from other user facilities who could say, yes, we're here today visiting this facility. Here are the ways that they're partnering with us over here, us over here, us over here. And together we are leveraging all of this brilliance throughout the country to bring to bear research results and other discoveries on this problem. The site convenings are something that we will be working to arrange starting actually in Q1 next year. I am hesitant to say the particular lab just because we are working out some final details there, but we'll come up with that shortly. Just let me check, since something's rattling loudly over my shoulder. Sorry about that. Should be okay. Also, in the realms of advocacy, we are going to be meeting with other science organizations, reaching out to different media sources, and then arranging further federal agency visits. As any of those catch your eye and you know what we're doing here at our facility, more people should know about this. We're looking to understand what you would like to highlight, so please reach out to us and let us know. We also will be continuing to leverage the online convenience of webinars and Zoom meetings and gatherings of different stakeholder groups. In particular, it's not specifically listed on here, but you see, building on what are user facility upgrades, there's ways to spotlight those. We also would like to be gathering user executive committees leadership for Zoom meetings on either a given topic or just at a certain cadence through 2024, so that people are aware of what is available and is happening in other facilities through the eyes of the user and people who have that role being on user executive committees. Right. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this bit of an overview of some of SSURF's activities for 2023 and looking into 2024. As you can tell with that scope of topics, that scope of activities, there's really plenty to do, and your insight into how you would see this to be most valuable. We are very interested to learn more and take your suggestions on what we could lean into. As we reach, or as I work with our volunteer committees, that's where I get a lot of insight on what would be most helpful next. And if you're interested in being part of SSURF in that kind of role, your participation would be greatly welcomed. And for 2024, we are committed to this idea of getting back in person, because the gathering of a few hundred people to share stories and finally see each other off of Zoom, we're disappointed, obviously, that we couldn't do that this fall, but we will look to do that in 2024. If being part of the annual meeting committee grabs your attention, definitely look for your engagement in that way. If there's any particular question, I can look into the chat, and otherwise we'll just take a brief break. I don't see anyone having put in a comment. All right. Let me say thank you for listening to this overview here, and we'll take just a brief break and be back in about 3 or 4 minutes for the start of our diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at user facilities panel. I look forward to seeing you in just a few minutes.